Hello everyone and welcome back to Casual Decks or Social Players Commander Edition. This is going to be solely for my YouTube content, so I hope you enjoy. And before we get to the deck, we have 5 rules here. 1, the deck's got to be made of cards legal in Commander. 2, it's got to be made from pool cards. 3, if I do buy a card, it's got to be less than £5. 4, it's got to be fun. And 5, I can break any of these rules. Up first, we have a commander that I brewed long and hard, and I keep coming back to my favourite colours and my favourite type. We have Orah Skyclave Hierophant. It is a 2 white black for a 3/3 lifelink core cleric. Whenever it or another cleric you control dies, return target cleric card with lesser converted mana cost from your graveyard to the battlefield. As you might tell, the deck is full of clerics and useful sacrifice shenanigans, and it's quite fun. I've got to a point where it's pretty good. So let's go through it. It gives me life as it enters, and it has Disturb, so I can bring it back later, but it's a good one to bring back with Orah. Speak of the Heavens, a 1/1 Vigilance lifelinker, which can create me some angels if I get enough life. Weathered Wayfarer, 1 mana 1/1 human nomad cleric, which can search me for some lands, which is obviously very important in white black with limited options. Ayli, Eternal Pilgrim, white black for a 2/3 death touch, allows me to sacrifice and remove things. We have a Bonecaller Cleric, 1 and a black for a 2/1 human cleric. 3 and a black to sack it to return a creature card from the graveyard to the battlefield. The benefit of this one is not only do you bring a creature back, you also bring a second one if your commander's out, because you're sacrificing this one dies, so you get 1 mana thing back. So very useful, very good for a piece in the deck. Got Elas il-Kor, Sadistic Pilgrim, Phyrexian Core Cleric, 2/2 Death Touch. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, gain life. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. This is a great way when you sack all your creatures, bring them back. One way of winning the game. So we've got Grand Abolisher, still white for a 2/2 human cleric, and during your turn your opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities of artifacts, creatures, or enchantments. So not only is it a great card, it's also a cleric, so benefits the theme of the deck. We have a High Priest of Penance, which is a white-black 1/1. Whenever it's dealt damage, you may destroy target non-land permanent. So really good at stopping people coming in at you. This is a really good deterrent, and plus the ability to get it back with the commander when something else dies at a higher rate. Really useful. Imperious Oligarch, white-black for a 2/1 Vigilance with Afterlife. So when this dies, you get a 1/1 Spirit. Very useful. Null Priest of Oblivion, 1 black for a 2/1 Vampire Cleric with Kicker 3 and a black, Menace lifelink. If it enters, if it was kicked, you get to return something from the graveyard to the battlefield. Again, very good. It can be sacrificing a lot of things, bringing it back. Got a Phyrexian Missionary, 1 in the white for 2/3 Phyrexian Human Cleric with Kicker 1 and a black. So lifelink, and it enters battlefield. If it kicked, you return something from the graveyard to your hand. So this is quite useful for certain ETB effects, but also casting, especially if you want to bring those kicker costs, you need to get everything to your hand. Pitiless Pontiff, white-black for 2/2 Vampire Cleric. You can sack creatures, give this Death Touch indestructible for a quite cheap sack cost. Remorseful Cleric, 1 and a white for a Spirit Cleric. Flying 2/1, sack it to exile cards from target player's graveyard. So a graveyard hate thing, but also sacrifice, so you can keep repeating that and get a benefit with the commander. Shadowrite Priest, 1 and a black for a 2/2 human cleric. It's a cleric lord, which is great, but also you can pay 3 black, tap it and sack another cleric to search low for a black creature card onto the great battlefield, then shuffle. So not only does it sacrifice things, it tutors, it boosts your clerics. Really, really good card. Got Skursdag High Priest, 1 and a black for human cleric with 1 and 2. It's got Morbid. You tap this and 2 other tap creatures you control, and you get a 5 black demon. Going to do this ability only if a creature died during your turn. So if it dies during their turn, your turn, whatever. But basically, if you're going to sack anything, your stuff dies, which you want with your commander. It's a great way of just putting a big 5/5 on the battlefield quite easily. War Priest Thune. It's 2/2, 1 white human cleric. When it enters, destroy target enchantment. Always useful to get some of that pesky enchantments that you just need to remove. Really good way, and obviously you can recur it. Zulaport Cutthroat, 1 on the black. This is one of my non-cleric creatures, but so useful. When it or another creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. So whilst no cleric, it just has that life drain ability, and if I'm sacking and killing a lot of my creatures, it helps me win the game. It's got a lot of those effects. Got Airlift Chaplain, 2 and a white for a human cleric, 1/1 flying. When it enters, you mill 3, and you may put a plains card or a creature card with mana value 3 or less among them into your hand. If you don't, it's a 2/2. So you get a cheap creature, you mill some stuff, which you can get back. So really, really useful, good card. Bygone Bishops, 2 and a white Spirit Cleric, 2/3. Whenever you cast this creature spell with convert mana cost 3 or less, you get to investigate, which allows you to get a bit of card draw. Again, quite useful in white-black, limited options there. Demon's Disciple, 2 and a black for a human cleric, 3/1. When it enters, each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. Really useful. You can sack this and then bring back a 2 mana thing, or you can sack something else and bring back something else from the graveyard. Really, really useful to have that recursion. Doomed Necromancer, 2 and a black, 2/2 human cleric mercenary. Pay black and tap this and sack it to return a creature card from the graveyard to the battlefield. Really good, cheaper than the Bonecaller Cleric in terms of cost, but you do need to tap it, to gain the benefit. Whereas the Bonecaller Cleric doesn't need to tap it, so you can do it at the same turn. But still really good to get a creature card back. Plus you're sacking this, which is a 3 mana thing, so you get back a 2 thing. Edgewalker, obviously really good for cleric deck. 1 white black 2/2. Cleric spells you cast cost white black less to play. Only affects the color mana. So if I played this, it would only cost 1 mana to play. Really, really good card. Helps me play a lot of cards really cheap. Grim Haruspex, 2 and a black for 3/2 human wizard. So this again, one of my ones that aren't clerics, but has morph. Not really doing that much with that, but whenever non-token creature you control dies, draw a card. This is going to be one of the big card draw engines in the deck. It's just so useful that it, even if it's not a cleric, still needs to come in. Inspiring Overseer, 2 and a white Angel Cleric, 2/1 flyer. When it enters, you gain 1 life and draw a card. If you get this recurring, you get to draw a decent amount of cards to find the better win conditions. Righteous Valkyrie, so 2 and a white for a 2/4 Angel Cleric. It flies, and whenever an Angel or Cleric enters battlefield, you gain life equal to its toughness, and if you have at least 7 life more than your starting value, everything gets +2/+2. So my weeny little clerics are now suddenly a bit buffer, which is really, really useful. Got a Southless Glyph Weaver, which is 2 and a white for a 2/3 human cleric. You can exile it to give all your creatures indestructible. Really good protection against board wipes. And also is a sorcery, Deadly Vanity, which is 5 black, black, black sorcery. Choose a creature or planeswalker and then destroy all other creatures and planeswalkers. So really, really good board wipe. You get to keep one of your things, but also board wipes in this aren't too bad, especially if you've got the commander out, because it kills it, goes back, and then you get to recur it. Tabarak's Hope's Demise, 2 and a black for a Demon Clerics, 2/2 flyer. Has lifelink as long as it has 5 more +1/+1s on it. But whenever another creature, non-token creature you control dies, you put a +1 on it. And if a creature was a cleric, you may draw a card. If you do, you lose 1 life. Again, really, really good card draw engine in this deck. We have Woe Strider, 2 and a black for a 3/2 horror. Enters, creates a 0/1 goat. You can sack another creature and scry 1, and it escapes. Again, not a cleric, but the free sack outlet is so important in this deck. Ability to scry, get rid of lands from the top if you don't need them, find those key pieces that you do. It gets to recur itself, which is useful because obviously you won't be able to with the commander, but still a really, really good piece in the deck. Got Erebos Bleak-Hearted, 3 and a black for a 5/6 enchantment creature god. It's indestructible. If your devotion is 2 black is less than 5, it isn't a creature. Whenever another creature you control dies, you pay 2 life and you get to draw a card, and you can sack a creature and pay 2 to give something -2, -1. So it's removal, it's card draw, it's an enchantment. And what's a cleric without a god to worship? We've got Mangara, the Diplomat. Is a 3 and a white for a 2/4 lifelink. It's a human cleric, and it gives you card draw if people attack you or play 2 spells a turn. Really, really good for card draw. Minafra, Merciless Soul, is a 2 white black for a 2/2 elf cleric with ward X, where X is the number of experience counters you have. And at the beginning of your end step, if a permanent you control left the battlefield this turn, you gain experience, and then all your creatures get +1/+0 for each experience counter you have. So sacrificing stuff in your turn allows you to get all your creatures buff and big, and this obviously gets slightly harder to remove as it goes. Pitiless Plunderer, 3 and a black for 1/4 human pirate. Again, not a cleric, but this one again so useful. Whenever another creature you control dies, you create a treasure. So anytime you're sacking all your stuff to bring back stuff back, getting treasure for it, which means keep going, keeps casting spells. Really, really useful. Got Shadowheart Dark Justicar, 3 and a black for a 3/4 human elf cleric. You can pay 1 and a black, sack another creature to draw X cards where X is that creature's power. So especially if you're buffing your cards up with Minafra and stuff like that, you get to draw a decent amount of cards, and then obviously you can sacrifice things to then benefit your commander. Got a Skemfar Shadow Sage. 3 and a black for an elf cleric. When it enters, you get to choose one. Either each opponent loses X life, where X is the greatest number of creatures you control have the same type, or you gain X life, which is the same thing. With the amount of clerics in the deck, this is the way we can recur this. That is how we win the game. Draining their life is really, really useful, and obviously you can gain life if you need it, but the ability to sort of bring this back and keep coming it back, really, really good, really, really powerful. Battletide Alchemist is 3 white for a 3/4 Kithkin cleric, and if a source would deal damage to a player, you may prevent X that way, X number of clerics you control. With a decent amount of clerics out, you basically become unstoppable. Plus, you can target this around the board. So if a source would deal damage to a player, so you can do very good politicking with this card. Very useful, very fun. Got a Bishop of Rebirth, 3 white for a 3/4 cleric, vampire cleric. When it has vigilance, and when it attacks, you get to return a smaller thing of convert mana cost 3 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield. Again, really good. So because it goes in, it attacks. If it dies, you get to recur something smaller than 5 anyway. Plus, you get a free thing back. So it's kind of 2 for 1. It's really, really powerful. Plus, you then need to get this back at some point later. Pretty powerful. Got Ferja, Judge of Valor, which is a 2 white black angel cleric 2/4 flying lifelinker. When you cast your second spell each turn, you get to look at top 3, put 1 into your hand and the rest into the graveyard. Really good for getting the cards you need into your hand and the cards you want into the graveyard. And finally, we've got Aetherios Shroud Veiled, 4 white black for a 4/7 legendary enchantment god. It's a indestructible. As long as your devotion to white and black is less than 7, it's in the creature. At the beginning of your end step, you put a coin counter on another target creature. When a creature with a coin counter on it dies or is put to exile, return that card to the battlefield under your control. So not only when you sack your thing, you get your creature back, but you also get a creature from the graveyard with your commander. Really, really strong. Good fun. I was tempted to make this commander, but it's a bit too difficult to get out with 6 mana, so gone with the Orah, and I feel it works really well in the 99. Next we have our artifacts, and we have the obviously classic Soul Ring. We've got an Altar of Dementia for another way of having a free sack outlet, and also a way of either milling yourself or milling your opponents. Orzhov Signet to have a little bit of mana ramp in white-black. Pirate of Heroes, ability to sack a creature and then get a creature card that shares a creature type with it. Really, really strong ability to get 1+ that creature's converted mana cost. Get onto the battlefield, you're sacking a creature, so it's a sack outlet. It gets you creatures you need and generally builds that board up. Relic Vial allows you to sack and draw, and then if a creature, as long as you control a cleric, Relic Vial has whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. Another effect on draining your opponents. We've also got a Transmogrant Altar. 3 mana, and it's 1 in the black to sack a creature to add 3 colors, or pay 2, sack it, and create a 3/3 zombie. Really, really useful to have a sack and then bring back a zombie, and then you get your creatures back from the graveyard. Fills it a bit, it gets you mana. Really, really useful. We now have our enchantments. We have a land tax, so I was lucky enough to get this in a battle bond set, so you do get a good way of getting your land early, as long as someone controls more lands. Really, really good in white. Vampiric Rites, 1 black for an enchantment to pay 2, sack creature, gain life, draw a card. It's not the best sack outlet, but card draw is obviously restrictive, and it does the job. I've got Agent of the Iron Throne. As long as you have your commander out, whenever an artifact or creature you control is put into the graveyard for the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life. Again, just one of these extra elements, so whenever something dies, you're starting to drain them for 1, 2, 3 or more. And we have an Elspeth Conquers Death, 3 white for a saga, where you can exile something with mana cost 3 or greater, get your opponent's stuff to cast more during your next turn, and then you get to return something back from the graveyard. So some of your big stuff get to return back a bit easier with this. Really good card for that. And finally, the Cruelty of Gix, 3 black for I read ahead, so you get to choose which one you want. So you can either get them to reveal their hand, remove a creature planeswalker and discard it, or you get to tutor something, losing 3 life, and then you get to return something from the graveyard to the battlefield. So again, another way of getting those bigger cards back out. We just have the 1 planeswalker with Kaya the Inexorable. Probably butchering the pronunciation. 3 white for a 5 loyalty planeswalker. +1, you get to put a ghost form counter on something. When it dies, you get a spirit and it gets back to your hand. Really useful. Being able to -3 to exile target non-land permanent. Really powerful as well. And if you get to that -7, you get to cast a legendary spell from your hand, from your graveyard, or from cards you're only in exile without paying its mana cost. So typically what you can do is get it up to 7, immediately get that emblem, and then you get to cast Kaya herself each turn from wherever, and then get +1 or exile and stuff, and just keep burning through the abilities on this. Really, really strong. I love this card. On to the instance, we have a Malakir Rebirth, because if something died, you get to return it back while still getting the sacrifice effect. Also a land on the other side. We've got Supernatural Stamina, which until end of turn, something gets +2/+0, and when it dies, you get to return it to the battlefield tapped in zone of control. Good for block, good for attacks, useful for bringing stuff back when you sacrifice. Tragic Slip, 1 black for creature gets -1/-1, but most of the time it's going to be -13, which kills pretty much anything. Love that card. And the Kabira Takedown, because we're trying to go wild with our clerics, so it deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control to target creature or planeswalker, whilst also being a land. A few more sorceries, unfortunately more sorceries than instants, but these are really, really useful. Eaten Alive to exile target creature or planeswalker while sacrificing as a cost. Really, really good. It hits our benefits on every effect and exiles, which is good. Damn, black for destroy target creature. Creature this way can't be regenerated, or overload it and you destroy each creature. So good board wipe in the effect, and obviously with board wipe it really benefits the commander. Diabolic Intent, sack a creature to go tutor, sack in, which is benefit, and find the best cards. Gift of Estates, in order to find 3 planes cards, not necessarily basics, but 3 planes, really useful. Power Stone Fracture, sack something to destroy something. Again, really, really strong, really powerful, really helpful, good bit of removal. Soul Transfer, choose one if you control an artifact and an enchantment, you get to cast both. We do have an okay amount of each, so sometimes you get to do both, but 3 mana removal, exile removal is really good, and return something from your graveyard to your hand. So most of the time you're just going to do some removal, and occasionally you'll get an extra benefit of return something from the graveyard to your hand. Vindicate, 1 white for destroy target permanent. Control any permanent. It's sorcery, but the artwork is amazing, so therefore it's in the deck. No One Left Behind costs 3 less to cast if you choose a creature card with mana value 3 or less. You get to return something from the graveyard to the battlefield. So 2 mana to return a cheap thing, or 5 mana to return a big thing. Horton Voyage is 4 black for a sorcery. To choose a creature type, return up to 2 target creature cards of that type from the graveyard to the battlefield. If it was foretold and spend 1 extra mana, you get to return all creature cards of that type from the graveyard to the battlefield instead. So if you've been hit with multiple board wipes, you haven't had your commander out, you're really struggling, or everything's in the bin, the ability to pay 7 and return every cleric from the graveyard to the battlefield is really strong. We've got Imaria's Call, which is 4 white for 2 4/4 angels. Non-angels get indestructible. Really good for a powerful hit attack. Also, it's a land on the other side, which is the main reason for it, and because why not? And again, with Ondu Inversion, not the best board wipe for 8 mana to destroy all non-land permanents, but it is a land on the other side, so it is versatile. And finally, our land. So let's have a look. We've currently got 33 lands in the deck, but we've got 4 others that instants and sorceries, so not too bad. We've got a Barren Moor, which can cycle. We've got a Leech-ridden Swamp, which can just ping down some damage later, and also it's a swamp. Idyllic Grange, so we can put a +1 on. We have 3 of more planes. Also, it's a plains itself. Secluded Steppe, good for cycling. Shifet Dunes. Very occasionally, if you've gone wide, you can sack this to give everything +1/+1. It's just kind of useful as a white land. I'm very struggling on lands. Bright Climb Pathway. It's white on one side, black on the other. Really, I like the versatility of the pathways. We've got a Black Dragon Gate, and just tapped and you choose a color other than black. And so it's basically a white-black land that comes in tapped, but occasionally benefits a gate. There's no gate benefits in this deck, but it's there just in case. It's again a Citadel Gate. It's just another white-black land that we need. Command Tower, obviously classic, really useful. Called the Shrine. Get this to come out and tap sometimes, paying 2 life, not too bad. Orzhov Basilica, bounce land in white-black. Scoured Barrens, gain some life. Shine Shadow Snarl, real plains or swamp, get to put it in untapped. Silverclaw Campus, if you've got mana to burn, you get to scry. Sunlit Marsh, it's a plains and a swamp, but it comes in tapped. Temple of Silence to scry. Field of Ruin to destroy some pesky non-basic lands of opponents and to get some land out. Starlit Sanctum to sacrifice Clerics, either gain life because it's toughness or make an opponent lose life because that's power. Again, a really good sack outlet for this deck to sack some Clerics. Westvale Abbey, can't be a Cleric deck without having a Westvale Abbey. You get to pay 5, tap it, pay 1 life to get a 1/1 Cleric out, which doesn't seem great, but you can pay 5 and sack 5 creatures, get the benefits of all of that, to transform it and then untap it, and it transforms into Ormondral Profane Prince, which is a 9/7 flying indestructible lifelink haste. So very strong card if you get it off, and obviously really useful to sacrifice 5 permanents, 5 creatures in the first place. So you get some really good benefits there. Plus we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plains, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 swamps. So that is my deck for Orah, Skyclave Hierophant. I hope you enjoyed, and if you have any suggestions of what cards you would put in, what cards you would cut, and what you think of it, let me know in the comments below. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you next time.